Thank you for joining what we plan to be a concise and informative session on completing a uniform budget. We want to start by saying this training is not meant to supersede any guidance provided by GOT2 and is subject to change. If changes do occur, you will be informed by the department. During this presentation, we'll be going over and providing examples of a grantee using an operator, grantee using multiple operators, and grantee utilizing the de minimis 10% rate, or the modified total direct cost rate. This section will be for a grantee utilizing a single operator to provide their service. As we begin, we will not be going through the entire budget page by page, but rather touching on select pages to provide a framework for how the budget should be completed and how the pages are interrelated. For reference, the pages that we will be reviewing are 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 11, and 22. As you look at Section A of the Uniform Budget, you should note that the expenses listed in lines 1, 2, and 3 are those of the county itself. In line 6, Contractual Services and Subaward, the lump sum is the total expenses of the grantee's operator. This is different than in previous years, where the section showed a combination of the grantee and the operator. This has been implemented to provide more transparency between the expenses of the state's grantees, that being the county or city, and those of the operators. This page is the indirect cost rate election. It has been added as a reminder to grantees. In the previous year, there were a number of instances where an election was not made. Unless you are selecting number 5, no reimbursement of indirect costs, you need to have an approved indirect cost rate through the CARS system. As with Section A, in Section B of the Uniform Budget, you should note that the expenses listed in lines 1, 2, and 3 are those of the county. In line 6, again, Contractual Services and Subawards, the lump sum is the total expenses for the grantee's operator. You should make note that at the top of Section B, the grantee will also need to supply the match requirement percentage as well as the revenue information in order for the budget to properly balance. Moving into the details of the uniform budget. On the Personnel, Salary and Wages page, the grantee should enter only the information of individuals whom work for the grantee directly. In the given example, PCOM Bob Smith is listed as the employee. The position is listed as PCOM. Bob's annual salary is displayed along with 100% of his time being shown and the length of time being 1. The personnel cost of $5,000 has been provided, which matches the information provided on Section A of the Uniform Budget. We would like to draw your attention to the bottom of the page, to the narrative section. In this section, the grantee should provide any details to clarify the information provided above. In this situation, the acronym PCOM has been spelled out along with the description of the duties being provided. Below that, examples provides the explanation of the non-state total of $3,950 as the matching component for the PCOM salary. Please note that this amount matches the information provided in Section B of the Uniform Budget. Moving on to the Fringe Benefits page, the grantee should enter only the information of individuals who work for the grantee directly. That being said, whoever is listed on the Personnel page should also be listed here. In the given example, the PCOM Bob Smith is listed as an employee, position is listed as PCOM, Bob's salary of $5,000 is displayed as the base, along with a rate of 25%, which produces the fringe benefits cost of $1,250. We would again like to draw your attention to the bottom of the page, to the narrative section. In this section, the grantee should provide any details to clarify information provided above. In this situation, the acronym PCOM has been spelled out along with components of the fringe benefit rate. Below that, examples provide the explanation of the non-state base salary amount of $3,950, along with the same 25% rate, which produces the fringe benefits cost of $987.50. Now heading to the travel expenses. The purpose listed is PCOM travel. The location is listed as various, as there may be multiple trips that PCOM takes throughout the year, albeit HIPTA, RTAC, or drug and alcohol training. Again, you may notice that there is that same split for both state and non-state, which can be found in the example. The contractual services and subaward contains the most substantial change for grantees. This section of the budget is where grantees will provide the total amount of all those operators' expenses that are in the lump sum of Section A. This information will be garnered from a budget that is provided to the grantee by their operator and should be kept on file according to IDOT document retention policies. The budget narrative and summary page is similar to the page that can be found in the FY17 and FY18 budgets, providing a total for each of the line items and a total amount for the entirety of the budget. As you notice, everything on this page should relate back to the budget as a whole and also sections A and sections B. If you do notice any disconnect between these areas, please inform a member of the IDOT team immediately. In this section, we will be addressing grantees who utilize multiple operators. As you look at Section A of the uniform budget, you will notice the same line items as that of the grantee using an operator are filled in. This is not to state that these are the only line items that will be used in your budget, as each budget is unique. You will also notice that the amounts are larger than before to account for larger expenses incurred with the greater oversight needed for multiple operators. Again, this is the indirect cost rate election page. This has been added as a reminder, as in previous years, there were instances where an election was not made. If you're making any election other than no reimbursement of indirect costs, you need to have an approved indirect cost rate through the CARS system. As stated in the previous section, on the personnel, salary, and wages page, the grantee should only enter the information of individuals whom work for the grantee directly. In the given example, Jack Johnson is listed as an employee. The position is PCOM. Jack's annual salary is displayed along with 100% of his time being shown and the length of time being 1. The personnel cost of $10,000 has been provided, which matches the information provided in Section A of the uniform budget. We would like to draw your attention to the bottom of the page to the narrative section. In this section, the grantee should provide any details to clarify information provided. In the situation, the acronym PCOM is spelled out along with the description of the duties being provided. Below that, examples provides an explanation of the non-state total of $4,000 as the matching component of the PCOM salary. Please note that this amount matches the information provided in Section B of the uniform budget. Moving again to the fringe benefits page, the grantee should only enter information of individuals whom work directly for the grantee and those individuals listed on the personnel, salary, and wages page. In the given example, PCOM Jack Johnson is listed as the employee, the position is PCOM, Jack's annual salary is displayed as the base, along with the 25% rate, which produces the fringe benefit cost of $2,500. We will again like to draw your attention to the bottom of the page to the narrative section. In this section, the grantee should provide any details to clarify information provided above. In this situation, the acronym PCOM is spelled out, along with the components of the fringe benefit rate. Below that, examples provides the explanation of the non-state-based salary amount, which is $4,000, along with that same rate of 25%, as it produces the fringe benefit cost of $1,000, which is the matching component to the state amount. Now, heading again to travel expenses, the purpose listed is PCOM. The travel location list is various, as there may be multiple trips that a PCOM takes, albeit for IPTA, RTAC, or drug and alcohol training. Again, you will notice the split for both state and non-state can be found in the example. This is also an opportunity drawing your attention to the bottom of the page to put in any details for some of the travel expenses that may be outside of the norms, in addition to those traditional conferences and IDOT required trainings. As stated earlier in the presentation, on the contractual services and subawards expenses page, the grantee will provide the total amount of all their operating expenses in a single lump sum. Grantees utilizing the buttons located on the right of the page will create a separate line for each operator. This information will be garnered from the budget that is provided to the grantee by their operators. The budget narrative summary page is similar to the page that can be found in the FY17 and FY18 budgets, providing a total for each of the line items as well as a total for state, non-state, and the overall amount of the budget. This section will discuss the utilization of the de minimis 10% rate, also known as the modified total direct cost. Utilization of the modified total direct cost, or the MTDC, which accounts for all direct salaries and wages, applicable fringe benefits, materials and supplies, services and travels, is not as simple as just applying the 10% to the total amount of all the expenses. It accounts to the first $25,000 of subawards and subcontracts. It does exclude equipment, capital expenditure, charges for patient care, rental costs, tuition reimbursement, scholarships and fellowships, and participant costs. If you need additional help on actually working through your modified total direct cost, please contact the CARS system, which can be found on the GotU website. If you need direction there, please contact your project manager, and any one of us will be more than happy to send you the link directly. In the given example, you see a section A that is very similar or exactly the same as what's been provided earlier in the presentation, where there is a zero indirect cost rate selected. You see just a total sum of all the expenses with no additional indirect costs being listed. In this example, you will see the budget that was just previously presented, except utilizing a 10% modified total direct cost, or the 10% de minimis. Now, looking at this, you may think that you would take the full amount of $393,033 and simply using the 10% is the correct approach. That would be incorrect because, as stated before, there are some exclusions and restrictions to using the 10% de minimis. Areas like rent should be excluded from the MTDC. In addition, some line items such as salaries have a salary cap when using the 10% de minimis, as well as in the case of this example. Looking at this budget, as was stated, was incorrectly calculated with the total indirect cost amount of over $30,000. What you will see is the introduction in red next to personnel of that salary cap of $185,100. Going to the right, you see the total expenditures being a max of $5,000, being a total of $5,000, which that is calculated into the base for the indirect cost rate. Going down to the fringe benefit rate line, you see a total amount of $1,250. That is also calculated, that full amount, into the base of the indirect cost rate. Under travel expenses, you see that participant support costs would normally be withdrawn. In this situation, they were not included in the travel expense, so that full amount of $1,250 was also included in the overall base. The location that you'll see the largest change as far as the introduction of the indirect cost rate would be line 6, the contractual services and subawards. When utilizing the modified total indirect cost, or the 10% de minimis rate, whichever one you want to call it, you are capped at 10% on the first $25,000, 10% of that first $25,000 for every line item, with that exclusion of personnel and salary, which has its own cap. So, while it may appear that you would just account that the full $385,533 would go towards the calculation of the base for the indirect cost rate, that would be incorrect. You're only able to work with that first $25,000. So of that $385,000, only $25,000 will be calculated into the base amount. So taking the $5,000, the $1,250, and that $25,000, you're introduced with your base amount being $32,500. That is the amount that you would then calculate by 10%, producing $3,250 as the total indirect costs. We've gone over a good amount of information, some of which is reasonably complicated. If you do have any questions, do not hesitate to contact your project managers, the section chiefs, any member of the IDOT transit team. We'll be more than willing to help you, walk you through these things, just to make sure we're all successful. Thank you again for participating in this training. And again, any questions, comments, concerns, anything that you think may assist in making some of these trainings better, please let us know. And have a great day.